presented by IAMAI and Here Technologies. This conference is powered by Pando, brought to you by Grey Orange and supported by Logistics Skill Council. We now have an interesting panel discussion on leveraging technology for removing inefficiencies from logistics operations. Please join me in welcoming the moderator, Mr. Raghuraman, Head Supply Chain Strategies at ITC, Mr. Puneet Agarwal, President CJ Darcl, Mr. Dhruvil Sanghvi, CEO at Loginext, Mr. Salil Kappoor, Business Unit Head Appliances at Orient Electric, Mr. KB Nagaraju, Chief Customer Officer at Bigbasket, and Mr. Neeraj Bansal, Chief Digital Officer at Wingcopter. A very warm welcome to you all. Over to you, Mr. Raghuraman.
Yep. I welcome everybody to this discussion. Hope we do a good justice to the topic. It's first of all an extremely interesting and a very, very timely topic. It's something which is very much digital is a part of our everyday life, and technology is right up to the way in which we all are connecting today to run this session. Yeah. So it's a big force multiplier and a big game changer. We were looking at logistics is one of the places where technology can play a very, very leading role in literally disrupting the entire landscape. And why do I say this? I think there's something very unique about the entire logistics ecosystem in itself. There are two ways in which you can leverage technology to unlock efficiencies in logistics ecosystem. The first one is it helps us unlock the internal efficiencies. And when I say internal efficiencies, it is about what happens within my facility, what happens with the transporter, and the few limited players who actually are playing a role in making a particular movement happen, and efficiencies in each one of those operations. That's one part of it. The second very big space where logistics again has technology again has a very big role to play is in system efficiencies. So when it says logistics is one of those places where the system has a huge impact on what the efficiencies which get delivered. For example, flows happening in the balance in flows. Is flow happening both ways, or is it one-way flow? So therefore, all of us know that almost 30 to 40% of movements are empty, and we're just burning fuel for nothing. And so there's a flow mismatch issue. Then there's an information mismatch issue because of the entire way the fragmentation is and all that. So there's a huge, the infrastructure is again a part of the system. So there is a big, component. There's an opportunity both in unlocking the internal inefficiencies as well as system inefficiencies. And that's where technology has become a very, very exciting, part of the entire logistics ecosystem. Needless to say, obviously, there's a lot of money chasing the entire space. And I was seeing something yesterday where someone was saying that, in the next few years, a 13 billion spend is likely to become a 20 billion spend just in investment in technology in India and logistics space in order to unlock, value for the customers. And that's what is going on. Equally, I think the panel has got people from industries which are like really trying to breach the known limitations of technologies. So we have someone from Bigbasket, which is a newcomer. There is someone from drone. So it's a very, very different. And then we have a couple of people who are in the very, very conventional industries, and they are also trying to digitize. So we'll broach upon all these topics. Let me open this conversation first with Mr. Nagaraju. See, you come from a completely different, let's say a new age industry, new commerce industry, which is Bigbasket, and your entire business model is based on technology. Specific to logistics, I'm just wondering, the entire concept of customer experience has become a very, very, it has become a game changer. And if anything, this is what is today driving a lot of the technological interventions in the logistics space. Just keen to understand, what kind of, how did you leverage technology to build your basic business model in itself, and various thoughts you have on how to unlock inefficiencies in the system.
Yeah, thank you, RR. I think after your nice introduction, the way it has evolved in India in the e-commerce space is, as you know, prior to that, historically, we always had the problems of consistency in logistics and utilization problems in vehicles and other delivery assets. and also the other issues related to proof of deliveries and whatnot. All of these contributed to a lot of inefficiencies. But in the last 10 to 12 years, it has coincided with two things. One is all this new business models like e-commerce have come on board, let's say about 10 to 12 years ago, when Flipkart started, or maybe Amazon started, even Bigbasket 17 started about 10 years ago. And this period also has coincided with some fantastic, I would say, logistics friendly technologies. What I mean by that is, of course, the entire mobile technology and mobile related tech which is available. We have this Google Maps, and which has helped to significantly improve the location accuracies. And the third thing is, of course, the government's own stack of what you call it, JAM, right? Aadhaar, mobile, and Jandan accounts. All of these also happened around this same period, about 10 years, when e-commerce also came on board in India. So this has resulted in some extremely good use cases and applications of technologies to improve the efficiency. Let me just try to highlight a few of them to kickstart the discussion. See, one is, first of all, as you know, e-commerce is mainly into are mostly into metros. When I say metros, tier 1 and tier 2 cities. So in these cities, locating a customer has in a customer's address accurately in order to do a timely delivery has always been an issue, and that has been significantly assisted by new mapping methodologies which are available using Google Maps and other things. So we actually in Bigbasket have a lat long for each and every customer, just to let you know. That has helped. How does it help? First of all, it has helped to navigate to the customer's location accurately and do a delivery. And then also it removed a lot of uncertainty about a person is able to locate or not, and therefore a lot of non-delivery returns, which used to happen in large numbers in the early part of e-commerce time. That has, over a period of time, has completely reduced due to better mapping of customers. Second thing is, logistics in e-commerce also involved collection of money, because in India, all said and done, by various estimates, up to 30 to 35% of e-commerce orders are still on cash, right? Especially small ticket items. So therefore, this again results in a lot of issues. Now, if the customer is having a cash, not having a cash, and then how do you collect it and carefully bring it back, etc. It's all part of the logistics flow only. But however, over the last, again, I would say more in the last 3-4 years, we have new technologies available whereby the delivery boy can actually carry a machine to swipe the card in front of the customer in case he doesn't have cash. Or in fact, now we have QR code enabled UPI systems are also available. All these are making sure that the non-delivery or not something doesn't happen. I mean, the delivery gets completed, and you also get a clean proof of delivery in the delivery boy's mobile app itself. The third part I would talk about briefly is the routing. When you have large transactions, which happens in e-commerce, for example, just to give a small idea, in Bangalore, we deliver something like 15,000 shipments a day. 15 to 20,000, sorry, I'm actually wrong, 35,000 shipments a day, right? So when you're delivering so many shipments a day in, let's say, from 15 hubs, automatically this means you are delivering about 2 to 3,000 shipments from each hub to customers. And it's almost impossible to figure out without a proper routing algorithm, right? How to ensure that the number of shipments are given to each rider or a van and so on. Now, transportation algorithm as a concept has been in existence for right from engineering days now. But however, I've actually started implementing in a last mile delivery only in the last few years. So in the e-commerce space. The fourth point is aggregation of resources. So we all know about, I mean, RR mentioned it right in the beginning, that, we always had this issue of, delivery vehicles or even people not having load either throughout the day or throughout the month or whatever, or return loads and all that. But of late, a lot of new age companies have come, like delivery, e-commerce, express weeks and all. Shadowfax, for example, they have set up excellent platforms for delivery resources whereby they are efficiently utilized either throughout the day, throughout the month, or whatever, across multiple shippers, need not be attached to a particular shipper, right? This has made some kind of a democratization of delivery sources, and that has helped in increasing the efficiencies. And all this has made possible use of by use of tech. My fifth point is specifically to Bigbasket. For example, we use for example delivery crates, and we use some kind of saddle bags which are given to delivery boys to deliver shipments. What we noticed is customers, type of or the amount of orders that they place in the beginning of the month, middle of the month, end of the month could vary. So what happens is there's a lot of empty space within the crates or within the saddle bag which a biker carries. So we have done a lot of technology we have adopted to ensure that more number of orders we are able to place within the same crate or within the same saddle bag. So the boy, once he goes on a route, instead of delivering 4 orders in one trip, can actually deliver 5 or 6 orders. All this made enabled by use of technology and capturing the dimensions of products and so on. The last point I would just say to stop this round of my speaking is during the pandemic, for example, the whole, lot of things changed in logistics. For example, roads became empty. So therefore, no, we started using technology to ensure that we are able to send more orders in one trip, because we found that people are returning back faster because roads were much emptier during the height of the pandemic. So that's a small example, but very good way to increase the efficiency, right? Similarly,
Optimization.
customers we used to deliver in slots, morning 2 slots, evening 2 slots. But during the pandemic, everybody's at home. So customers were saying, especially for essentials, no issue if you are not delivering in 9 to 12, 9 to 11 slot or 11 to 1 o'clock slot. You make sure you are delivering. That is more important. So what we flipped the whole solution by saying, let us have a mother slot, slightly bigger slot, so that I'm able to optimize my delivery mechanism. I can use reduce vehicles. In fact, during the pandemic, a lot of delivery boys ran away. A lot of people, vehicles and drivers disappeared and so on to their hometowns and all that. So we had less resources. By increasing the slot timing and creating a mother slot concept, which again kind of a small technological intervention, we were able to use lesser resources and at the same time able to meet the requirements during the pandemic. Right? So these are some of the examples I'm just sharing. Maybe we can come back again.
Fascinating, Nagaraj. So it's so nice to see how technology actually has created a very viable business model, which is
Yeah.
not just lying in some corner somewhere, but it is something which is being used by millions of people daily to do every
Yes.
operation of theirs. So I think it's quite stunning. And I think one area which none of us represent and talk about, I think it's one of the sponsors is Grey Orange, is the kind of technology which is now coming up in the warehousing space in itself. Because in
Yes.
logistics, one major bottleneck is our ability to handle at packets at an individual consumer level vis-a-vis at a, let's say we are always used to thinking of large full truck loads, full
Yes.
movements.
Yes.
Compared to that, I mean, you're literally when you're talking, when you're moving away from pallets to cases to eaches, your entire
Yes.
industry is about handling eaches, and so therefore the entire warehousing technology which
Throughput
is
becomes
enabling it.
maintaining a
It's
throughput
amazing.
at large volume becomes a challenge. Yeah.
So,
Yep.
so therefore, a simple summary is that every leg lodges its technology, which is actually creating the viable business model in itself. Yeah. And thanks for this, and we'll come back. From you, I'll move to someone who is in the other end of the spectrum, which is CJ Darcl. I'll talk to Puneet. Puneet, when I say other end, I say it with a lot of respect because I know that you're one of the
Yes.
largest shippers in the country, and one of the most established and respected name in the shipping in the intercity shipping industry in the country. It'd be great to understand how CJ Darcl is looking at technology as a source of both competitive advantage as well as efficiencies in its operations, and how do you see that play out eventually?
Yeah, thank you so much, Salil, for your kind words. So definitely, we take huge pride in our 5 decades of legacy, 5 decades that we've been in the game, and we are one of the largest fleet aggregators in the country. At any point of time, there are more than 10,000 trucks plying on Indian roads, carrying goods booked by CJ Darcl. 1,000 of them are owned by us, but 90% of these vehicles, they are what we aggregate from the market. As you know, that Indian fleet operators are very, very fragmented. So we have always placed a high importance on technology, and we were among the first one to implement TMS in the country, and then we graduated to SAP TMS in 2009, and now we are in midst of implementing a new age, completely digital, completely cloud architected TMS with mobile first interface on microservices and state-of-the-art technology systems designed to improve our operations as well as primarily optimization. And of course, giving the flexibility to the customer to configure how they require the convenience for the customer convenience. So these are the areas. So technology is, I believe, one of the most under-leveraged pillar for which can change the game of logistics in the country. So I would ask the panelists, how much do you think a truck whose business is to move is actually moving on the ground, and how much time it is stationary? Any guesses?
I think it is almost 50-50.
60%, I would say.
It's 50-40, 50-50. It's as bad as that.
It's 25%.
What is it?
27% on 27% when the truck is actually moving.
Oh,
So 73% time it is waiting either for the driver to be taking rest, or at the loading point in the queue, or the unloading point in the queue, or even worse, waiting for the next load. So this is a reality, and this is a problem that a company like our company has taken at the forefront to how do we optimize that. So the freight visibility is the theme that we are looking at. The freight visibility, once we have the real-time visibility of how things are on the ground. So first of all, it is a must for customer service. Our customer needs to know when the goods are reaching. If there's any disruption, any delay, they need to know. Now customers would increasingly ask for appointment deliveries. So that is something that is required to have a logistics technology platform foundation for that. Second is the load matching and efficient handover from one truck to one driver to the next driver. So we're piloting on some bit of relays models on somewhere. And otherwise, even if we do double driver kind of operations, we need to optimize that the waiting time for the truck at the loading and the loading point is minimal. And the third most important and difficult problem that requires a cross-industry collaboration is the freight marketplace kind of thing, which somehow hasn't happened in the country. It's been there in the US, and China is doing pretty well. Their Full Truck Alliance, that's a company that almost manages 200,000 trucks. So there are various initiatives in the country, but we haven't seen significant impact. So we, as the torchbearer of the full truck industry, we are in a very good position, and we are investing hugely in building our ecosystem, where almost 100,000 truck owners that work with us and 200,000 trucks that on a regular basis work with us. We have the GPS locations. So as much we can integrate GPS locations, that's one strategy. And the other strategy is the SIM-based, mobile SIM cell tower triangulation-based tracking. Based upon these things, how can we find even better load matches and faster? So part of the idle movement is inherent, because goods traffic is never equally balanced. There would be variation there. But what we are trying to solve is, when you know that the cargo load is imbalanced, and rather than waiting for load at a location, we would move to the next location to find the next load. That's the third very important pillar that we are trying to solve using technology at CJ Darcl. So in general, I would say we are still at the tip of the iceberg, while we potential in terms of optimization, keeping in view all the constraints of cost, customer delivery windows, optimizing reach, speed, all these things. There are so many factors to be taken, which would mess up any logistics or supply chain manager's head. I see another side of thing is the actual implementation on the ground. It's while the techies or the think tanks that we like to think in terms of leveraging AI and optimization models, whereas on the ground, the real implementation is hard. So whenever we are designing solutions, the most important part is the person on the ground. It has to be easy to use for him. Even today, it happens while we are using SIM-based tracking and cell triangulation. It happens quite often that we have to call the driver, "Ki boss, kahan pahunch gaya tu?" So those kind of things are still happening. So we have two different worlds in the logistics, and all of us need to get together to make sure that dissemination of technology and on-ground implementation is taking place. So that's the
Very
biggest
interesting,
challenge.
very interesting take. As in, like, the intent reality gap, I think, is something which is very, very strong. And I think nothing explains it better than your message that 23% is when a wheel is actually moving, and 77% it is either waiting for a load or it is whatever is going on. But just look at the amount of inefficiency which the system is therefore carrying. And even in this 23%, what is the load fill? I think that will be another, one more layer of inefficiency which will actually be scratching the surface. And so very, very fascinating, and also very good to know that you said you are actually developing your own digital stack as far as TMS is concerned, because you want it to be configurable for all the players and all. Yep. Interesting. Yep. So
Thank you.
then again, I will now go from one end to the other end again now, drones. Neeraj, I know your career has always been about kind of always pushing the boundary in terms of technology. And you mentioned, you're about, from Star Trek to Star Wars kind of a movement. So it's, from, what we also, it'd be very interesting for us to hear from you as to the the let's say cutting edge technologies like drones and things like that, and where do you see them, the entire thing evolve? More importantly, also from your perspective, it will also be good to hear how the entire every technology industry, how has it evolved, and therefore how do you see logistics tech also evolve? It will be very interesting to hear your take on that as well.
No, thanks, Raghu. Look, rightly said, like my career started with the mobile industry, setting up the first mobile network in India, BPL Mobile in Mumbai back in 95. And that's what I call a Star Trek, because I grew up as a kid watching that, Captain Clark's Peak, etc. And that's how I kind of got the concept, and I never realized I'll do mobile phone. And as we were growing up, Star Wars came in and we saw these spaceships flying. And now I'm with the drones. So that's how I kind of always feel that, my dream, I'm living my dream to a certain extent. But again, I would say it's also a comparison to your question on the evolution of the industry, because what I saw was when India went on to mobile, it leapfrogged, because we had if you were to remember in our times and your times, you had to wait a couple of years before you will get a fixed line connection. And you would even do every resource of yours and connections to get a fixed line. But then when mobile phone came in, it just swept everybody. Nobody talked about disadvantages of it, things it will go bad, etc. Even at that time, 16 rupees a minute was the start of that industry. And today it is the cheapest mobile call rates and the data rates in India, while it started as one of the most expensive in the world, because it was just making sense. It made the life experience better. It's like, as our colleague from Grofers would say, the customer experience was so delightful, but it was more the necessity as well. It was a need. You need to get connected. Now, the same is happening in logistics. If you look at, I set up the DHL Smart Trucking, the road transportation business there, and I completely concur with what Puneet was saying. We were working on increasing the utilization, etc. But then there is always a limitation, how fast or how much space on the roads is there, and how much can you really bring efficiencies at bay areas, because loading, unloading was the biggest drawback when I was running the DHL part as well. And then how do you build predictability when something will arrive in the last minute? Because that is the worst thing in customer experience. As Grofers is saying, well, customers were saying, give it at least, forget about the time slots, at least deliver the product. That's more than enough for us. So the customer is already lowering its expectations, while this is not what probably Grofers in its ambition wants to do. They want to be actually even more precise. So now what's happening is electric vehicle is one thing that is happening right now, which is building economics of scale so that you can actually draw better. It's building a green energy. And a lot of other things are happening, like artificial intelligence, blockchain, etc. And they're all good because they're all being implemented by like Salil or Puneet or Grofers, etc. But what is happening is we actually are now going to take VTOL, vertical takeoff. We are actually, sorry, my bad. I was saying Grofers, I was saying Bigbasket. My apologies there. Sorry for that. So what I was saying is now, since the roads are occupied, drones is something that is actually taking a vertical takeoff. So basically, we are building logistical highways in the sky. So while you have the road highways, we are building the highways in the sky now. And that is actually a kind of a step change in the way people can imagine it. Today, economically, some of the industries might find the business case doesn't look good. Same like mobile phone did back in 95, 96. But if you were to deliver with right predictability, right on time, exactly where you want to deliver without worrying about any of the traffic congestions, or if the resources are available or not, because these are going to be unmanned vehicles. So drones are unmanned. So that's where the Bigbasket will not have to worry whether the people are not there, if there is a lockdown or not, because they can fly the drone directly up and it will land at the customer site, or actually even closest the distribution center. So there is a application coming on from the drones, and there is a lot of liberalization of the policy happening. You would also talk about that timeliness, because you are able to load it very quickly, because you don't need somebody to come into the parking bay and find a loading time or a unloading time. The things goes very fast. You're also not trying to club in too many things at the same time together. That means you are actually able to give supply on time as the demand is, rather than you are trying to aggregate all the demand together, then ship it together. It is not becoming an alternative to road transport, but it is an add-on to what the road transportation is giving. And that will actually drive new user behaviors, new user cases there. And the first thing that we see as Wingcopter, we have been actually already running operations for last couple of years. We already are seeing one of the fastest emerging markets for these drone operations is not Europe or Americas. It's actually Africa, Asia, Middle East. This is where actually the user cases are coming. And the first user case that we see is actually in the medical services, the pharma sector, because most of the products that are there, either they should be of high value or they're of time essence. But the third thing is also the reach. In India, all three are a problem. You have to get pharma, like think of it, 1.2 billion people to be vaccinated. Yes, we can get it in all the metros, but what about far reaching areas? Who is going to take care of the logistics out there to get those people vaccinated, or bring blood samples back, be it for some big diseases, or could be for RT-PCR tests, whatever? These are not there. The timeliness, it is also sometimes certain things have to be at a certain temperature. You cannot control that, and you need a huge infrastructure. If you have to go, let's say, from a Bangalore airport to the Bangalore city, imagine a 3 hours ride. How much would you do? And with a drone, you can possibly do it in 20 minutes or 25 minutes there. So the infrastructure needed to support there is gone. But if you go into Northeast or some other rural areas of ours, there is no reach there. That's the same thing as in Africa. We are running operations in Malawi and a lot of other places where there is nobody able to deliver anything. And if you look at UNICEF, WHO, they're all partnering with people like us to deliver all these vaccines. Their timeliness, reach is there, and speed is there. So we are actually building out for that experience right now. India is actually opening up big time the vertical space. In fact, just like 1 month, 15, 20 days back, India just liberalized the whole policy of the drones. They are actually opening up everywhere. And every state government is now making an exception or a special approvals for drones to come in. And this is what we as Wingcopter now are partnering with a lot of, actually in discussions with a lot of different companies. And in fact, some of the logistic players that were mentioned before, they're actually all part of the consortia and driving the user cases. Those will happen, but it will only happen once probably the pharma and medical will start it, but then the other verticals will take on. The expensive products or the premium products or timely products will take on.
Very interesting take from you. Mobiles in 1995 were costing 16 rupees a minute for a call, and today it is the cheapest and probably the cheapest in the world in terms of, and it has actually unlocked the entire opportunity called the data. So that's what actually technology can do. And let's see what the drone technology. Any other technology spaces which you are working, which you see are equally interesting, Neeraj, in terms of drone definitely is one. Any other technology space where you think is a big, anything big which is developing?
I think the second big thing, and especially I'm calling from, looking at from Germany and Europe, it's electric vehicles that have actually really taken on. I mean, if you look at some of the big players, their electric vehicles came as for passenger, like vehicles, and we see a lot about it, but nobody is seeing the current trends in the delivery vehicles, the trucks being made from electric. In fact, in Germany, they have created a autobahn where they are actually wiring up like the trams up on the wire so that all the delivery trucks will actually run on electricity. So there have been companies in Sweden and a couple of places in Germany, etc., where they have created hubs and corridors from their main factory to their main delivery house, which will be all electric. And some of them are even autonomous delivery vehicles. So delivery vehicle, because look, the best way to get the good ROI or the unit economics is the high utilization. Utilization is the key.
Yeah.
The more you sweat your asset, the better you will get the ROI in which is a low margin business. So you have to really go. Like if Puneet is even double is the utilization of his time of his trucks, I mean, he will see a very different financial numbers. That's how the numbers work over here. As long the utilization increases, they
Can I? Sorry. I just after Neeraj comes, I just want to add a little on the EV space. Yeah.
Sure. So we see a EV revolution is happening there. Then we see the third area is the blockchain, because of so many people involved in various transactions, the payments and everything out there. The blockchain is coming actually as a great effort to combine all the stakeholders there. And we see, I'm sure, some of the companies like Grey Orange, etc., and other guys might be looking into this area as well. But there are many key players emerging, which is simplifying it. And I remember 4 years back when I was in DHL, one of the largest FMCG firm refused to accept e-pods, proof of delivery, because we were giving an electronic one while we were trying to sell digital proof of deliveries. So it's a big fundamental change that we are seeing. Now I hear all those companies have totally taken a leapfrog to get to blockchain, etc. And now you're building predictive algorithms. So artificial intelligence, all those things are happening.
It will open up. Nagaraju, before I come to you, one word from Salil. Salil, so now while there is a technology and all that on one side, like what Puneet was saying, there's a large gap between our, the real issues, and there's a huge intent reality gap which has to be mixed, which has to be bridged, and that's a realization that's a reality which we all work with. Yeah, that's what we're saying. It'd be great to hear from you again, Orient, very, very established, a very enduring established name, and in the consumer durable industry. What is your take on what are the technology trends you are seeing? What are the real challenges on the ground? And how do you see technology unlock some of the challenges?
So technology on ground, and Neeraj, with due permission, we'll come back from the skies to the ground. The ground realities are really, really very different. And, the challenges on ground with rains clogging the roads, with drivers not arriving on time, with 27% of, the truck time on the road, with the warehouse spaces being clogged and not being managed the way they should be managed. That is the reality out there. That is where we live as of now, and we'll love to be transported to Neeraj's world very soon. But till then, there are things that we have to handle. So I'll put this technology as a lever for optimization in 2 3 buckets. The first one is the process efficiencies, as you Raghu had mentioned in the beginning, starting from the SKU predictability, the models that can help you optimize the SKUs depending on the past trends. Then moving on to connecting the stakeholders. We've come from a way of operation, especially in supply chain, where different internal stakeholders and external stakeholders have never connected on one system.
Yeah.
That is still operating either on paper in some places, to everyone's surprise, and at best on emails. You don't have a common platform where they interact on live and on real time basis. That's another big area. Then of course the other things that are slowly getting into place into most of our systems, and most of our companies are adopting, which is on the lines of TMS and WMS, where the optimization of shipments, the travel routes is still happening. It has not reached the level that we all would expect. We are still moving on that part. And if you ask somebody, the real answer which comes out is this is really essential as a technology, but when you ask them how much have you really saved, the question is not much as of now, but in future when we scale, it will definitely show. Not that future promise and that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is something which is a challenge on for the operations people like us, for the finance people, because there is an investment, there is a investment of time also along with capital, which goes on getting technology on board. But the expectation that it will start delivering after some time when you get to a certain scale, and it is essential, but all you know is when you reach that scale something else is required at that scale, right? These are the challenges that the technology has to answer. Then there are other things that need to be put in place. For example, the aggregation is something that is still evolving in very early stage. Aggregation of part truckloads, the players who are really emerging, aggregation of warehouse space on demand. If you can get it for a certain small piece for a certain number of days, and don't get locked in for 3 months minimum or a year. That I was working closely with somebody who was trying to build a Airbnb of warehousing. Now these are the things that will help all of us. So we are still in the learning process, I would say. We sometimes jump onto that hype curve which technology pushes us into, that yes, it is going to change our world, but then we come back to normal and understand that yes, it is a good thing to have, but is it really converting into those benefits on ground, which we would expect on day-to-day basis? That is the answer which still needs to be addressed as far as most of the technology players and even the implementation teams are concerned.
Okay, good. Thanks, Salil. But I do understand. I also come more from your point of view on working always in conventional industries. But what I am always amazed at is that so while we do struggle a lot, and there's no question about what all needs to be improved. The fact of the matter is that completely disruptive business model has been created, and with all these technologies, the extent up to which we are able to implement everywhere is a different issue. But in pockets where they have been able to land these technologies as a solution, that's where Bigbasket is actually running a business today. It's because every technological solution is landing, and that's how the jigsaw puzzle is getting built for them. So I guess it's going to be an
No, no,
interesting journey.
I fully agree. B2C business and D2C business is especially more challenging, where the shipment size and the unit is much smaller as
Yeah.
compared to the FTLs and the PTLs of our world, and that is a very different
Yeah.
dynamics there. And technology, of course, has played a large role there. Of course.
Yeah, Nagaraju, one last word from you on the EV, and then we have a couple of questions. We'll need to finish in 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Arar. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, okay, thanks. So I just wanted to take on, let me first answer one of the, I'm curious to add to what Salil just now mentioned, and you also added on use of technology. Like, see, like when I look at it, I'm an engineer, and I've been seeing this technology, many of them. So for example, robotics, artificial intelligence, ML, or RFID, they've all been there. Over the last 15, 20 years, they were invented much earlier. But I think the time has come now for these new age companies like Bigbasket or Amazon or even. So we are able to find some practical applications for these technologies. So one of the things we do at Bigbasket is know any technology just for the heck of it, we don't try. We try only if it has got a clear use case or an application in our industry, our operation, and whether it will enhance the either the efficiency or improve the customer experience. One of the two things. Only then we go after such a technology. That's just a comment. And going back to EVs, we are one of the pioneers. Actually, not many people know that we started dabbling or started using electric vehicles even as early as 5 years ago, when we introduced four-wheelers in our operations, right? That too with absolutely new OEMs, who are just trying with some new battery technologies, battery management systems and all that. But that has helped us to give a lot of feedback to the EV makers, including Mahindras of the world, So much so 20% of our fleet. When I say fleet, we have more than 12,000 vehicles, between three-wheelers and two-wheelers. So 20% of it is already are using electric vehicles. And we have charging stations. We upfront created charging infrastructure in all our hubs because that's the only way to do it. You can't depend on public available charging stations in the near future. So that would take some time. A lot of people are trying, but we went ahead and did that. The third part, I just going back to Puneet mentioned, right about, the big gap between, what we have to, what we try to do, but actually in the, at the
Reality on the
different
ground.
levels, the gap, right? So we face similar problem because we have about 30,000 blue collared workers. Either they could be pickers, stackers, receiving guys, and of course, delivery staff, etc. One of the challenges we found was the attrition is very high in these places. A lot of people keep on changing. We almost recruit 2 to 3,000 people per month on a continuous basis. One of the things we had to do necessarily was to use technology for training them, right? Because it's almost impossible to call 50 of them, 100 of them, especially during the pandemic. You can't make them sit also because of social distancing norms, and you can't do it. So we started using mobile as a training methodology. And interestingly, we found that most of these delivery boys, especially, are extremely savvy already on use of smartphones, because they are the kids from today's generation. So if you training bits in nice gaming way with some animation and all that, they were picking much faster than the way I could actually go and train them. And they were able to answer the questions at the end of it. They're getting self-trained, etc. So I thought I'll just bring it to your attention.
Thanks, Nagaraju. Well, I'll just take one question, and which is an interesting one on the policy framework on drone implementation in tier 1 and tier 2. Any thoughts about that, Neeraj? How has been the regulatory framework with respect to drone implementation in tier 1 and tier 2 cities in India is the question. Any reflections?
Yeah, I think as I was reflecting, drone policy when it started, in fact, before March this year, there was literally no drone policy. There were a lot of consortia without even having a clarity as to what that consortia will help you achieve. Everybody in the industry came in and partnered into it, be it the Danzos of the world, etc. Everybody was there, partnering with somebody. We were there with somebody. It didn't work out that well. Then there was another policy introduced later on this, let's say 1 month back, where it actually liberalized everything from 25 forms to 6 forms, etc. And there is something called VLAW, visual line of sight, and there is a called BVLAWs, beyond visual line of sight. So these are the two ways. So in visual line of sight, just for audience to understand, you need to be able to see the drone when it is flying, and you should be able to see it. And the other one is the BVLAWs, like you are sitting here and the drone is 40 kilometers away or 60 kilometers away, and you really don't know, but you have to be able to control. And now you are actually into the aerospace. You need from the air authorities, defense authorities, foreign directives. We have got incidents happening with drones, etc. There's a lot of negative vibe to it as well because of the border situation. Something's happening in some states. So, but government has been actually very, very open and positive about it. And first thing they are doing, in fact, Indian Council of Medical Research recently came out with expression of interest where they wanted vaccinations to be done via drones, and primarily looking at some of the remote sites and tier 2 and tier 3 towns. In fact, drones will make a lot of sense if you look from a humanitarian perspective, etc. Tier 2 and 3 more than tier 1, because tier 1 you can get your electric vehicle bikes. And again, to like Salil's and others' point, whether it is a B2C or it is a B2B, I would say it's both. It's B2B and B2C. The challenge is if you have a large distribution point and you want to bring it to the closest distribution point or closest assembly point, you can bring it there, and there you can have your vehicle last mile electric vehicle delivery guys who can actually pick it up and take it to this, because there is going to be another element is the public trust into that. People seeing drones coming over there, what if it crashes, something drops? It takes some time, effort, same like was the mobile phone. You can take a picture of mine, somebody, and do something, etc. There's always going to be a fear when a new technology comes in. So we'll see the application might come more into B2B before it even comes B2C. And the second thing is, when you are collecting a package, how do you ensure that the person who is collecting it is the right person, not there? So there is a lot of technology that is coming in. Plus, you need, every time you fly a drone, you will need approvals for these kind of drones from the aviation authorities. You cannot have that many flights as well, as much as you want. But in B and C towns, it will be a lot more easier than in the A towns. So I see a huge uptake actually in the B and C towns over here, both from businesses and from customers, because they don't even have the availability or possibility to get the reach. It's like a lot of the e-commerce firms today are targeting B and C towns because that's where people don't have that opportunity to go into the nearest market and have availability.
Yes,
So this is what, so we are changing fundamentally the customer experience and they're in B and C towns more with this, and remote areas of India. Remote
Thanks
areas
a lot,
of India.
Neeraj. Keeping an eye on the clock. I think we're just 2 minutes over. I'll stop this. I think I'll just tell you what I picked up in this conversation as the last comment. I think, there's a very famous saying, right? The future is already there. It is just that it is not evenly distributed. I think that's a very famous quote on technology or anything about development. I think that's exactly what, we have a company, that's exactly what we are hearing even in this conversation. There is a ground reality and there is something which is cutting edge. There is something there is Bigbasket, which has built a huge new age business. There is, Neeraj, Wingcopter talking about how vertical takeoffs are going to happen. And then there is the ground reality. I think it's all, the future would definitely progress and technology would play a major role in spreading itself across the ecosystem, and that's the hope. It's going to be an exciting journey, and thanks a ton for all of you for your insights. Over to you, Ishwar. Yeah.
Thank you, dear panelists, for such an engaging discussion. We appreciate you taking time out to join us today. We would like to thank our registration partner, MapMy India, CX partner Zendesk, session partner Shiplight, silver partner Fretron, knowledge partner Supply Chain Labs, and industry partner PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in 10 minutes with our next session. Please stay tuned.